How did they survive in a city as expensive as New York? Invariably wan and overweight, they looked like prime candidates for disability. Maybe some drew on inherited wealth. They weren't reviewers who watched movies for pay, but pure cinema fanatics, a small group of people who seemed to have no life outside the darkened confines of the theater. Inside, awaiting a movie, you heard them talking about the movies they'd seen the day before, the movie they would see later that night, the movies currently being shot. They discussed trends in cinema, actors they hated or cherished, who was a rising director, who wanted to climb. Their arguments, their jokes, their fetishes, all revolved around film. Clearly, these were not people who could be married, except to other cinephiles, or could deal with the demands of raising children. They're not friends of any of them. I knew who they were from observation. Not long ago, before my own marriage and the birth of my son, I'd been a solitary sort who spent many a leisure hour planted in a movie house seat. Unlike them, I did have a job, but freelance proofreading hadn't constricted my movie going. Without the straitjacket of a 9-to-5, I had flexibility. I could pop in from my place in the Bronx for a Tuesday matinee revette screening at the Museum of Modern Art. But this latitude was past for me for the most part, an untenable privilege for a family man, and the afternoon trip on the subway to see Beehive at the Walter Reed had been a kind of treat. When I encountered Patricia there, I hadn't seen her in months. I hadn't thought in quite some time about her world of cinema bums, and yet, my brief exchange with her served to reawaken my curiosity. I drew a blank trying to imagine Patricia in her house cooking, vacuuming, washing dishes. I couldn't imagine her food shopping, going through the common activities of the day-to-day. I didn't especially care for the woman, but this inability to see her in a setting outside a movie theater bothered me. I don't even know why. Her history, I thought, what of that? If she was retired, what profession had she held? And was her obsessive attachment to the movies solace for something lost in her life, or dreamt of, and never attained? I departed the theater that day musing, and when I came to the Lincoln Square fountain, I paused. The sun was blinding, the summer heat had told on the city. I knew I had to get back home to pay the babysitter and cook dinner for my wife, but I resolved not to let my questions die. They were bugging me. I needed to make the time somehow to do a decent investigation. And I'll stop there. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Scott. You can still hover in the background for a few minutes. Your apartments and houses. Maybe hear some of that. All right, so I will send you off into the ether, Scott. Thank you. Next up, we have the amazing Megan Abbott, who I'm so honored to have here. And you probably know Dare Me as your latest streaming obsession. You can watch every episode on the USA Network app, and it's based on a book which Megan wrote, and I think she's going to read from it, unless I'm mistaken. So here's Megan Abbott. I don't think we can hear you, Megan. We can't hear you, or maybe I can. We can't hear. Oh. No audio. I'll bring in Bill for a second just to read first, and then we'll figure it out. Sorry. Some minor technical difficulties. We couldn't hear Megan for a second, but now we have Bill Boyle stepping in. Are you going to read from your new one, City of Margins?
I am.
All right, no pressure.
Thanks, Alex.
We'll figure out the audio issue, and this is a fluid situation. We're all just rolling with the punches, but Bill will be next, and then we'll follow up with Megan.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Hey, everybody. I hope everybody's doing okay in these crazy, scary times. I'm just going to read a little bit from this new book, City of Margins, which came out March 3rd, which feels like a lifetime ago. I'm just going to read about 2 pages, so it shouldn't take me but a few minutes. I don't think you need to know much. This is kind of from the sort of middle of the prologue. It starts off with this dirty cop, Donnie, and a couple of his cop pals are hanging out in Donnie's house, and Donnie looks out the window and sees his 15-year-old neighbor in the schoolyard across the street with a college dropout who he knows because that kid's father is in trouble with the mobster that Donnie kind of works on the side for. So Donnie and the other cops rush over and they break this up. And I'm going to pick up in the part where you kind of think they're going to let him go, and it's all over, and they're going to leave the schoolyard and just let the 2 kids go on their own way. And then Donnie gets back to harassing them a little bit. And I'm just going to read a couple of pages. So, Donnie steps closer to Antonina. A girl like you just don't know how to use your head, and that's a shame. You're young. You've got a lot of years ahead of you for mistakes. You should think. Next time you might not encounter cops nice like us. I'll think, she says. Donnie turns his focus back to Mikey. You shouldn't have come here. You know that, right? Mikey nods, staggers a bit. He's maybe a little drunk off that bum wine. You heard me, Donnie continues. You shouldn't be with a girl like this. You know that, right? She's too young. She's got decent parents. Another nod. Next time you don't have the luck to bump into cops like us. I can assure you of that. You'll be handcuffed and locked up. You fuck a 15-year-old, you're a sex offender. Donnie pauses. But maybe you don't give a shit. Maybe you don't give a shit for cops. Maybe you and your crust punk friends spit on cops, huh? That's what you do? You mind spitting on the ground. Fucking pigs, I can hear you saying it now. Donnie likes seeing the fear in Mikey's eyes. He likes the idea that the kid started out one place, thinking he was going to score a piece, and that he's ending up here, practically shitting his pants, tuned down totally by a tough guy with a shield behind him. Donnie feels as good as he's felt in a long time. Pags is riding the vibe too. That's one of Donnie's cop friends. Throwing fright into a freak like this. Good old-fashioned fun. Satil, not so much, but that's okay. Satil's maybe a little bit too nice, a little bit too soft. But that's one of the things Donnie likes about him. Sometimes it's good to have a fat, soft angel on one shoulder to keep you out of too much trouble. Come on, Satil says, reaching out and prodding Donnie in the ribs. We're all finished here. Antonina gives a look of relief. Like with Satil there, it's possible they'll get out of this soon. Maybe Donnie's thinking he should give the girl more shit. You were going to let this punk screw you, weren't you, Donnie says to her. Antonina knows better than to respond at this point. When Mikey opens his mouth and starts to talk, Donnie instinctively lifts the bat one-handed and cracks Mikey in the side of the head with it. Mikey drops to his knees, one hand pressed over his ear, the fingers extended out over his temple and forehead, the other hand on the concrete keeping him up. And there's some blood showing through his hair. There's some blood showing in his hair. Donnie clocked him good. Jesus Christ, Satil says. Antonina goes over and puts her hand on Mikey's back. Donnie looks at her. Her face is saying a million things, but she can't make words. She's got fear and regret in her eyes. You okay? She finally asks Mikey. You learned something tonight, Donnie says to Mikey. What not to do, how not to be. Straighten up before it's too late. That was fucked, Donnie, Satil says. Donnie snaps back at Satil. You got a bad streak of limp wrist in you, you know that? Mikey, you okay? Antonina asks again. Mikey's still on his knees, wincing, his eyes squeezed shut. He'll survive, Donnie says. He turns and leads the way out of the schoolyard, Pags and Satil fast on his heels, leaving Antonina huddled over Mikey. Let's go to the wrong number, he says to Pags and Satil. Sure thing, Pags says, laughing. That was fucking funny, Donnie. You playing whack-a-mole with that kid's melon. Maybe you knocked some smarts into him. Fucking idiots, Donnie says, thinking about Mikey's face tattoo, his stretched earlobes, his dirty hoodie, his crust punk pals or whatever, and thinking about his arms around little Antonina Davino. They got doom ahead of them, he knows that much. I could use about 10 million beers, he says. I'm going to stop there. Thanks so much, Alex, for doing this, and thanks to all of you for listening.
Thank you, Bill. That was fantastic, and I guess it was just nature's way of telling me I should stick to the to the original run of show. So it all works out for a reason. And now with audio, we have Megan Abbott.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yes, okay.
Yay.
Hey, I just want to thank Alex for putting this together and for giving me something to do on a Friday night. I want to give a special shout out to Q and Willow and all our indie bookstores. We need them, but Q and Willow in particular is a true neighborhood gem here in Queens. Please support them by ordering books or gift cards. They are shipping books. They are dollar shipping. Today I pre-ordered the amazing Ivy Pakoda's upcoming book, These Women, which maybe she'll be reading from tonight. So I thought I'd read a little bit from my novel Dare Me because I have not read from it in 7 years now, so thought it would be really fun. I'm just going to read the first few pages, so you don't need to know anything really other than this is Addie talking. She's the protagonist. She's a high school cheerleader full of secrets, aren't they all? And this is just the very beginning of the book. After a game, it takes a half hour under the shower head to get all the hairspray out, to peel off all the sequins, to dig out that last bobby pin nestled deep in your hair. Sometimes you stand under the hot gush for so long, looking at your body, counting every bruise, touching every tender place, watching the swirl at your feet, the glitter spinning, like a mermaid shedding her scales. You're really just trying to get your heart to slow down. You think, this is my body, and I can make it do things. I can make it spin, flip, fly. After, you stand in front of the steaming mirror, the fuchsia streaks gone, the lashes unsparkled, and it's just you there. And you look like no one you've ever seen before. You don't look like anybody at all. At first, cheer was something to fill my days, all our days. Ages 14 to 18, a girl needed something to kill all that time. That endless, itchy waiting every hour, every day for something, anything to begin. There's something dangerous about the boredom of teenage girls. Coach said that once, one fall afternoon long ago, sharp leaves whirling at our feet. But she said it not like someone's mom or a teacher or the principal or worse, like a guidance counselor. She said it like she knew and understood. All those misty images of cheerleaders frolicking in locker rooms, pom-poms sprawling over bare bud breasts, all those endless fantasies and dirty boy dreams, they're all true in a way. Mostly it's hard, it's sweaty, it's the roughness of bruised and dented girl bodies, feet sore from floor pounding, elbows skinned red. But it is also a beautiful, beautiful thing, all of us in that close, wet space, safer than in all the world. The more I did it, the more cheer owned me. It made things matter. It put spine into my spineless life, and that spine spread into backbone, ribs, collarbone, neck held high. It was something. Don't say it wasn't. And Coach gave it all to us. We never had it before her. So can you blame me for wanting to keep it, to fight for it to the end? She was the one who showed me all the dark wonders of life, the real life, the life I'd only seen flickering from the corner of my eye. Did I ever really feel anything at all until she showed me what feeling meant? Pushing at the corners of her cramped world with curled fists, she showed me what it meant to live. There I am, Addie Hamlin, 16 years old, hair like a long taffy pull and skin tight as a rubber band. I'm on the gym floor, my girl Beth beside me, our cherried smiles and spray-tan legs, ponytails bobbing in sync. Look at how my eyes shudder open and close, like everything is just too much to take in. I was never one of those mask-faced teenagers, gum lodged in mouth corner eyes rolling in long sighs. I was never that girl at all, but I knew those girls, and when she came, I watched all their masks peel away. We're all the same under our skin, aren't we? We're all wanting things we don't understand, things we can't even name, the yearning so deep like pinions over our hearts. So look at me here in the locker room before the game. I'm brushing the corner dust, the carpet fluff from my blister white sneakers, home bleached with rubber gloves, pinched nose smelling dizzyingly of Clorox, and I love them. They make me feel powerful. They were the shoes I bought the day I made squad. Thank you, everybody. Bye, books.
Thank you, Megan. We are going to take a short break, which usually in real life means you just get to mill about and drink and buy books, but we have a button here that allows you to buy books. We don't serve alcohol here, but hopefully you have something to drink in the meantime. And we'll reconvene in about 5 minutes or so. So you just have to stare at me for 5 minutes. Next up we have, in a few minutes, we'll have John Vircher, and then Sarah Weinmann, S.J. Roseanne, and Lindsay Fay. We'll do a little tech support for Reed now. I know, Richie, the books are not straight, and the records are not straight. It's very sad. That was a fantastic reading by Megan and Bill and everyone in that first set, so thank you guys for doing this. And remember, if you heard something you liked, just push that giant green button below my head, and you can buy the books, and they will be shipped to you for only $1, which is a very good deal and a great way to support a wonderful indie bookstore, Q and Willow. I wish there was a way so you're not just staring at my gigantic face, but these are the perils of Crowdcast. I'm the Cuomo of Noir at the bar. I'll take that. I'll take that. What's everyone drinking? Everything, that's good. Bourbon, rum, and OJ. I'm just having water, I'm boring. Rosé is pretty noir. The dregs of my liquor cabinet. All right. If you do buy a book, it would be great to hear what you picked up, so we can just get people moving towards the little bookstore area. Gin and tonic, intense, okay. Fresco, wow. And also there is an ask a question button, so any of the readers, if you see that you have something to say, I see there's a few already up there, feel free to answer them or chime in. I'm going to get John up here just to make sure he's all connected and ready to go. Hey, John, how's it going?
Can't hear you. Yeah, I don't hear you.
No. I'm glad we tried that.
What?
All right. You worked.
It worked.
It worked. Okay. We've taken this break to make sure that Reed is up to speed technologically.
Well, no, my computer was doing, it was one or the other. So, and people would have probably been happy if they couldn't see me and only could hear me read. So I was good with that. I was only worried that my camera would, the audio wouldn't work.
Everyone wants to see you. You're live, though. This is live. You're not in the green room anymore.
Oh, my God.
You're on stage.
Oh, dear.
All right. I'm going to send you back into the midst.
Into oblivion?
Yeah, I'm going to shoot you into space and then bring John up. Can you hear me now? You can't hear me. All right, John doesn't need to hear me to start reading, so go ahead. I told you this was not going to be without technical difficulties, so I will try to get John back up here. In the meantime, let's try the next reader. Sarah, are you ready? I hope so. Okay, we've got Sarah coming up. Sarah's one of my oldest friends in this crazy business, and and all gussied up for the occasion.
Look, I mean, if we're going to be in quarantine, we might as well get dressed up for it, right?
Exactly.
Anyway, hello from my apartment. It will surprise none of you that I have a lot of books, and they make a good backdrop here.
That's perfect.
And I'm really, really pleased to be here tonight to share in this amazing event, which is so good in person, but just feels like extra all-star as a result. So I am going to read the first part of the first chapter from The Real Lolita, which you can buy the paperback over at Q and Willow. And before I do, I should also mention that the next project that I have up is an anthology of recent true crime writing. It's called Unspeakable Act. The pub date is still July 28th, and much more about that at a later date. So in the meantime, I'm going to read this little bit of The Real Lolita, and it sets up about the kidnapping of Sally Horner and when she first met the man who would take her away from her family for 21 months. Sally Horner walked into the Woolworths on Broadway and Federal in Camden, New Jersey, to steal a 5-cent notebook. She'd been dared to by the clique of girls she desperately wanted to join. Sally had never stolen anything in her life. Usually she went to that particular 5 and dime for school supplies and her favorite candy. The clique told her it would be easy. Nobody would suspect a girl like Sally, a 5th grade honor pupil and president of the Junior Red Cross Club at Northeast School, to be a thief. Despite her mounting dread at breaking the law, she believed them. She had no idea a simple act of shoplifting on a March afternoon in 1948 would destroy her life. Once inside Woolworth's, Sally reached for the first notebook she spied on the gleaming white nickel counter. She stuffed it into her bag and walked away, careful to look straight ahead to the exit door. Before she could cross the threshold to freedom, she felt a hand grab her arm. Sally looked up. A slender, hawk-faced man loomed above her, iron gray hair underneath a wide-brimmed fedora, eyes shifting between blue and gray. A scar sliced his cheek by the right side of his nose, while his shirt collar shrouded another mark on his throat. The hand gripping Sally's arm bore the traces of an even older, half-moon stem, forged by fire. Any adult would have sized him up as middle-aged, but to 10-year-old Sally, he looked positively ancient. "I am an FBI agent," the man said to Sally, "and you are under arrest. Sally did what many young girls would have done in a similar situation. She cried. She cowered. She felt immediately ashamed. The man's low voice and steely gaze froze her in place. He pointed across the way to City Hall, the tallest building in Camden. That's where girls like her would be dealt with, he said. Sally didn't understand his meaning at first. Then he explained. To punish her for stealing, she would be sent to the reformatory. Sally didn't know that much about reform school, but what she knew was not good. She kept crying. Then his stern manner brightened. It was a lucky break for a little girl like her, he said, that he was the one who caught her and not some other FBI agent. If she agreed to report to him from time to time, he would let her go, spare her the worst, show her some mercy. Sally stopped crying. He was going to let her go. She wouldn't have to call her mother from jail. Her poor, overworked mother, Ella, still struggling with the consequences of the suicide of her alcoholic husband, Sally's father, 5 years earlier. Still tethered to her seamstress job, which meant that Sally, too often, went home to an empty house after school. But she couldn't think about that. Not when she was about to escape real punishment. Any desire she felt about joining the girls' club fell away. Overcome by relief, she wouldn't face a much larger fear. Sally did not know the reprieve had an expiration date, one that would come due at any time, without warning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah. All right, I will close your window. And we're having a little bit of a technical issue with John, but I've recruited S.J. Roseanne to step in, so we're just waiting for her to log into the program. That was fantastic. This has really been an all-star evening, even though we're all kind of doing it from our respective homes as we deal with quarantine. I'll invite John as well. What's everyone buying? All right, let's see who jumps in first. We've got SJ and John. All right, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear
Awesome.
me?
Yes, I can hear you. All right, so John Virtue has written one of the strongest debuts I've read in a long time with 3 Fits, which just was released last year from Polis Books. And John, I'm really excited to have you here. I'm glad you were able to find some time in your schedule. So I'm going to assume you're going to read from that novel, and I will let you take it. You're not? Okay.
No.
All right. Keeping it real. Okay.
Yeah, thought I'd take a chance and read something from what I hope is my next published book. We'll see.
All right. I will leave you to it.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody, for being here, and thanks again to Alex for setting this up. This is great. So I will just give a little bit of quick background. This book is about a mixed martial arts fighter who is losing his battle with pugilistic dementia. And as a result, it's getting him in some trouble, particularly the rage that is associated with what's known as CTE, or chronic traumatic encephalopathy. So the main character's name is Xavier. His cousin and trainer is named Shot, and he's about to get into a sparring session with a guy named Lawrence that he doesn't really like very much. Xavier approached the small training cage in the far corner of the gym to see Lawrence dancing around the ring, shadowboxing with rapid uppercuts and retreating jabs, showing improvement for the young bucks hovering on the outside of the fence around his corner. He stood a head shorter than Xavier, but his thick arms looked to hang past his knees, and his jabs sliced through the air and snapped at the end. Though they were the same weight class, Lawrence's skin pulled tight across his musculature as though it had been vacuum sealed. One might have confused it for the look of discipline and training, had the constellations of acne on his back and chest not told a different story. His face fell when he saw Xavier approaching with his gear. "Man, you best tell Shot I'm trying to get some real rounds. I ain't trying to play tag with no senior citizen." "Let me ask you something, Larry," Xavier said. "When the cops pull you over, do you drop the wannabe act and talk like you're actually from the main line? Or do you really commit to the cultural appropriation?" "Oh, wait, that's right. You white boys don't get pulled over, do you? Even with those dumbass cornrows on your head." The boys in Lawrence's corner brought closed fists to their mouths and let out a collective "damn," drawing it out. Xavier smirked while Lawrence gave them an indignant wave. "So, If I'm supposed to talk white, that means I should talk like... Lawrence scratched his chin, then pointed to Xavier. You? Because between the two of us, I'm the blackest one here. Is that right? That's right. And my name is Lawrence, not Larry. But I guess you know all about getting called the wrong name, huh, Tom? The boys outside the cage oohed, egging on the interaction, spoiling to see the two get it on and sparring. Others training on the bag stopped the drills to come over and watch. Xavier clenched his jaw while he wrapped his hands. He once thought he'd left the Lawrences in his life back in high school. The white boys who filled the trunks of their Honda Civic hatchbacks with enormous speaker boxes, bass lines rattling their windows so hard they had to have them resealed. They strutted the halls, their walk and dress an unflattering imitation of whatever rapper they idolized that week, putting on a modern-day minstrel show. All the while, they'd tell Xavier how, as a mixed kid, one who listened to white music, one who talked all proper because his mother taught English at the college and would not tolerate slang in his home, one who had a white father, one whose hair didn't kink as tight as the others, one who wasn't naturally athletic at basketball, football, or track like he was supposed to be, one who seemed to only date white girls, one whose skin, they pointed out, wasn't much darker than theirs when they returned from their summer vacation at their parents' beach home, one whose dick was seen as relatively small, all things considered, during showers in gym class, that they were blacker than he was. It was already hard enough when the other black kids told him that. He wasn't a fighter then, but he was a fighter now. Shot showed up behind Xavier. How about both y'all shut up and gear up? I'm tired of hearing y'all bullshit. Yes, sir, Mr. Tracy, Lawrence said. He slid on his helmet and secured the chin strap. Yes, sir, Mr. Tracy, sir, Xavier repeated. Keep playing with me, X, Shot said. Xavier laughed him off. The fingerless glove Shot had the MMA fighters used for sparring and was dense with extra padding, heavier than the 4-ounce gloves used to fight. Xavier pushed the padding down and back and down repeatedly, as far away from his knuckles as it could go. He'd take care not to hit Lawrence too hard in the face, but that didn't mean he couldn't make him feel a liver shot or two. He donned his helmet, slid on his shin guards, and pulled the straps tight. Shot opened the cage door for him. Remember what I told you, Shot said. Xavier slid in his mouthpiece and bared a blue and black rubber grin. You worry too much, he mumbled and patted Shot's cheek. Shot slapped his hand away. Now go ahead. The door closed behind Xavier and Shot slid the linchpin home, locking him in. 5-minute rounds, he called out. You got that much in you, old head? That's a long time to run away from me in this little cage, Lawrence said. He extended his arm as an offer to touch gloves. Xavier did not reciprocate. It's like that? It's like that. Cool. Xavier took the center. Lawrence bounded on the balls of his feet side to side and in and out, his left down at his waist, his right cocked like the hammer of a pistol. Xavier watched his chest, keeping Lawrence's body within his full view. Lawrence committed more to the in and out, feinting with his back hand, watching for Xavier to react, but seeing nothing. Xavier matched his lateral movements, cutting off the cage, slowly moving in. Lawrence felt the chain link against his back and hot-footed out of the way, creating more space, and commenced to dancing around Xavier again. You don't want none, X? One of the kids shouted from outside the cage. Shut up, Lawrence shouted. At that, he changed his footwork and moved diagonally. Xavier had adapted to his initial pattern, and in that split second, his eyes dropped to look at Lawrence's feet. It was all the opening Lawrence needed. His front hand flashed from his waist to the bridge of Xavier's nose, a stiff up jab almost as hard as a cross that snapped his head back. His world went white for an instant, and his eyes leaked. The inside of his nostrils went wet, but he couldn't tell if it was snot or blood, but he refused to bring his hand to his nose to let Lawrence see the jab had affected him. He had seen it, though. He shuffled his feet back and forth, stutter-stepping in and around Xavier. The structureless choreography distracted him again, and he looked down to his feet once more. Lawrence made him pay with another lightning jab, followed by a straight right that put Xavier back 2 steps. Eyes up, X, Shot shouted. You're too heavy on your heels. Xavier heard Shot, but only just. He was right. His feet felt stuck to the mat, his calves and thighs leaden compared to the coiled springs of Lawrence's legs. He plodded after him, no longer controlling the center of the cage, but giving chase. Lawrence faked the jab, and Shot's hands went up, leaving space for a looping hook. Lawrence hid behind the feint, catching Xavier behind the ear, turning his headgear. Watch the power, Lawrence, Shot said. We're sparring here. And I ain't even hit him hard, Shot. I told you this fool don't belong in here with me. Shut up and spar, Lawrence. Let's go, X, Lawrence said. I ain't even sweating yet. Xavier adjusted his helmet. He stepped back to the center and found a lightness in his legs. He bounced back and forth, floating toward and away from Lawrence, making him adjust and readjust his distance. Xavier stepped forward and intentionally looked down. He saw Lawrence's hand rise from his hips as though it were in slow motion, slipped the jab, and delivered a thunderous right cross down the middle. The boys outside the cage shouted, and Lawrence fell back against the fence. He brought his fingers to his nose to check for blood in the corner of Xavier's mouth, but turned in a crooked smirk. They met in the center, exchanging jabs and low kicks to the other's lead leg, looking for openings for the power shot, neither finding a home for one. All the while, Lawrence jawed at Xavier, taunting him for being 2 steps slower, for being nothing but a ball of string to a jungle cat. Xavier hardly heard him over the steam whistle in his ears. Though Lawrence's jabs and block shots lacked any significant zip, each impact to the outside of his glove, every bounce on his toes, every snap punch sent shocks through his temples and cranked the dial on the screen in his skull. Lawrence faked a low kick and went high. His padded shin smashed into Xavier's face and sent him to the mat on his ass. Instinct kicked in and he popped right up. Shot yelled from outside the cage, but Xavier could no longer make out the words. A different voice found purchase in his brain. It dumped adrenaline into his bloodstream and streamed rage down his nerve fibers into his muscles. He sold a shot for the double leg takedown, and Lawrence bought it. His head dropped to sprawl and met Xavier's uppercut on the way down. The impact drove his teeth into the underside of his mouthpiece and sent his helmet toppling to his corner. Simultaneous cries of, "Oh shit!" sounded throughout the gym. Before he could fall backwards, Xavier slammed his forearms down into Lawrence's collarbones and wrapped his hands behind his head, holding his neck in a tight clinch. Xavier yanked Lawrence's exposed head down to meet his rising leg. His kneecap felt resistance from the bridge of Lawrence's nose for only a second before it gave way with a wet crunch. He lifted Lawrence's head and held it there for less than the span of a breath, yet it felt as though he held it between his hands for minutes, looking into his eyes, glassy and dilated, and in that moment he felt regret, a fleeting ache that would only find relief in telling Lawrence he was sorry for this. An ache disappeared as he brought Lawrence's cheekbone crashing down into his other rising knee. Lawrence collapsed to the mat and Xavier followed him down, landing on his chest in full mount. His arms pumped like pistons in a combustion engine filled with a fire just as hot. The back of Lawrence's head bounced off the mat, then met it again with violent speed. With each successive blow, the hard parts of Lawrence's face went soft, and the whistle in Xavier's ears lessened, enough to hear the cage door open behind him, to hear shots screaming as his thick arm slid under his chin and tightened around his carotids. But he didn't stop punching. That's it.
All right. Thank you, John.
Thanks, everybody.
Fantastic. What's your beverage of choice?
That is a Founder's Porter.
Excellent. So aside from 3/5, is there a book you'd recommend that you've been reading that's gotten you jazzed?
American Spy has got me captivated right now. Lauren Wilkinson's book is just amazing.
Nice, nice. Well, John, thanks for doing this, and stick around and keep the chat going while I try to juggle 15 balls in the air. All right, so next up we have S.J. Roseanne. Thank you, Richie, for just kind of hovering in the background. I appreciate it. S.J., can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Oh, that's very exciting.
It is.
I love this. This is Alex Segura. I'm going to read the beginning of a story called Chin Young Young Sets the Date. The narrator is Lydia Chin's mother, who occasionally does her own investigative work. It's from a book called Deadly Anniversaries, coming out this month. It was going to be one of the Edgar Week releases. You can get it at Q and Willow, I'm sure. And if they don't have it, you can order it. So, and if you bought all the books from everybody already, then go buy a gift certificate from Q and Willow. Okay. Chin Young Young sets the date. Well, husband, it has been some months since I last came to visit you. Today the weather is hot, but a lovely breeze is... I have brought some more for you today from Old Liu's shop. Old Liu sends his greetings. I have also brought the lemon tarts you like so well, as today is the anniversary of our wedding. It was so long ago, yet in my mind it seems like yesterday. Your fine voice growing louder as you sang along the path between our villages. Your friends, some of whose voices were equally loud, but not as fine, marching with you, casting firecrackers to scare envious spirits away. My friends refusing to give me to you until you had paid the bride price. How low that price was, both of us from such poor families. We laughed. I said you had gotten quite a bargain. Weddings in America are not conducted that way, husband. There is no marching from village to village, no bride price. But still, there are weddings. I have come today to bring you good news. As you know, I'm not a person who likes to brag about her accomplishments. I thought, however, that you would find what I have to say interesting. Our children lead very busy lives, so I've decided they do not need to take the time to hear this story. Therefore, I've come here alone, by bus. This is something our children do not know I know how to do. There are many things the children do not know I know, although now there is one fewer. The tale is long, husband, so here is your tea. It begins this way. On a recent Sunday afternoon, I sat at a table at Wohop, enjoying a bowl of winter melon soup. As this is something I don't often make at home, I do not mind the expense of paying for it, though of course the soup at Wohop, though it is excellent, is not as good as yours was. I was with Lynn Rui from the bakery. You remember her. She is a nice woman, but sometimes she cannot stop talking. This is not always a problem, as she often doesn't pause for a response. When I am with her, as long as I utter an occasional encouraging sound, I have leisure to observe my surroundings. That afternoon, we sat in the corner. A family filled the round table in the center of the room. They were an elderly grandmother, a mother, a father, a young man, a young woman holding a baby. 2 seats, the places of honor to the right of the grandmother, were empty when I arrived. They remained empty until another young man descended the stairs. The family's heads all turned. This young man held the hand of a nervously smiling blonde young woman. The family smiled in return, but their smiles were tentative. I realized I knew these people, husband. They were the Chu family from Eldridge Street. You remember them. Our 3 youngest children went to school with their 2 sons. Our daughter didn't know them well, but the eldest son, Kai, was great friends with our son, An Zhang. They made mischief together. They were always punished, but they were also always forgiven, because they were such clever children. The creativity of their naughtiness was especially pleasing to you, as I recall, husband. An Zhang, as you know, has not changed. In any case, I will have more to say about An Zhang later. The younger son of the Chu family is named Li. In school, he studied with our Tian Hua. As neither of them ever did anything except study, they were never in any trouble. In fact, according to our daughter, they were boring. Of course, that is not true of our son, but I will admit I did find Chu Li a bit tedious. This, then, was Li at the table with his wife, who held their child. As older brother Kai seated his blonde young woman beside his grandmother, Li glanced at the parents. He frowned. I couldn't hear the conversation as their meal progressed, because of the distance between our tables, as well as Lin Ryu's ongoing gossip. But clearly, the Chu's luncheon was a strained one. As you know, I do not make it a rule to stick my nose in other people's business. I could not help but notice, however, that the blonde young woman was wearing a diamond ring. With shy pride, she showed it to the family around the table. It appeared none of them had seen it before, which told me she had only recently become engaged to Kai. A family meal after an engagement should be an occasion for celebration, as it was for our family when each of our 2 oldest sons became engaged. Although you were gone by then, husband, your happy presence was felt each time. At both tables, we continued to eat. As it happened, I called for our check as the Chus were finishing their meal. Our soup was not quite gone, but Lin Rui had begun to tell me stories about people I don't know. We left the restaurant. I told Lin Rui that I had shopping to do. After one final story about the owner of the eyeglasses store on Mott Street, I don't even know this man's name, she said goodbye. I stood on the corner enjoying the warm day. Eventually, the Chu family emerged from Wohop. I took a few steps over to the shadows under the tailor's awning. Kai said his goodbyes to his family. With his blonde young woman, he walked a block up the street. I headed in that direction myself. Kai spoke to the young woman with that look of a man who is troubled but tries to hide it. They kissed on the corner, then parted ways. I hurried to catch up with Kai. Since he had been such a good friend of An Zhang's, it was only polite that I greet him. Chu Kai, I said, can this be you? He turned. Auntie Chin, what a surprise. He smiled. You're looking younger than ever. Kai was a mischief maker, but always polite. I'm happy to see you, Kai. Are you well? Yes, thank you. How's your family? How's Aunt Zhang? The family is well, thank you. As for Aunt Zhang, now that he doesn't have you to lead the way, he no longer gets into trouble. This made Kai laugh. Really, Aunt Zhang is very successful, I told him. He is a photographer, of food, among other things. I cannot say I understand why anyone would pay a great deal of money for pictures of food. Sometimes I think this is another clever trick of the kind you two used to play, that he is now playing on the world. But then, he is not the only one of my children with an odd profession. My daughter is a private investigator. Lydia? Wait, Lin Wanchu, right? She's a private investigator? Yes, she is very busy in her career. She is lucky she has remained living in our apartment, so that I can take care of her. Now, Chukai, I must go. It has been lovely to see you. Then, because I had no shopping to do, I hurried off home. Within an hour, the red telephone in our kitchen rang. I had expected that, of course, so I was not startled. Look at that, Kai said. I remembered the number after all these years. Auntie, I'm wondering if Lydia, Lin Wanju, is there. I'd like to speak to her. Come over immediately. Press one long buzz on the bell downstairs so I'll know it's you. He was there within minutes, bringing a bag of fine oranges. A well-brought-up young man, like our own children. I went to the kitchen for a bowl for the oranges as he removed his shoes. Then I showed him to your easy chair, husband. It is the chair I offered to honored guests. I thought you might not mind if Kai drank a cup of tea there while I helped solve his problem. The end. That's about half the story.
That's
so now
great.
you need to buy the book to read the other half and all the other stories, with all the anniversaries. Thank you so much, Alex.
Thank you, SJ. When does the book come out? Is it out?
The book it's an April release. It should be out any minute. Is all I know. It was supposed to be launched the last week in April. So if it isn't out, it's certainly on its way.
Very good. Thank you, SJ. It's always a treat to have you at Noir at the bar, virtually
Thank
or.
you. I'm having such a good time. All right, I'm going to take this off now. Bye.
All right, bye. Now it's just me and Richie. I'm going to unmute you.
Oh, don't. Oh,
Why were you cursing vehemently?
I was. Actually, I thought I was trying to be very quiet. I was worried that I was.
No, I completely silenced you. I have that power as the overlord of.
Thank you.
We're going to take a little. We're going to take a little bit.
Virtual.
But you're next. You're just perpetually on deck. And
I'm always
my
here.
one suggestion to everyone is to please.
I'm here all week.
Yeah, you are here all week. I think I'm going to mute you again.
Yes.
But in the meantime, people should pick up some books. And thank you, Q and Willow, for virtually hosting us on Crowdcast, which, aside from a few little glitches, has been pretty painless, I would say. And it's taught me the art of virtually juggling. So I've just kept 2 or 3 people on the on-deck circle. What are you going to be reading for us, Richie?
I'll be reading from Hipster Death Rattle because it is available on sale at Q and Willow. They still have a few copies left, so I'll be reading from here.
What's your elevator pitch?
Oh, for this thing? It is a thriller about a serial killer with a machete who wants to solve the problem of gentrification by killing hipsters and bringing up the crime rate and making the neighborhood less interesting to live in.
I like it. And after you read, we'll have
more dangerous.
Lindsay, Lindsay, Hilary, and Wallace Stroby. So we've got a pretty all-star lineup tonight, if I do say so myself. So thanks for everyone for taking the time out of their packed social schedules to read virtually and to spend some time with my quarantine beard. I am enjoying the Cuomo comparisons, I have to say. It's really,
I can definitely see it.
All right, so do you want to dive in? I can give you the mic.
Oh, should we just, I thought people had to go do something.
I mean, I feel like the breaks can be truncated.
Right, and people are probably reading now anyway while I read. Okay.
Actually, let me just do some quick tech support.
Okay, yes, good idea. I'll just be here.
Yeah, you should be there.
Yeah, I'll just...
I need to make sure that Reed's camera and audio are working, so... Hopefully everyone's picking up some books. Okay, this is not working. So, What have you picked up any new hobbies while under isolation, Richie?
Well, my wife bakes quite a bit, so I've been eating a lot of cookies and cake. That's fun. That's been good. And also been getting more into yoga in order to offset all the cakes and cookies.
So are you eating cookies while you do yoga, like kind of just immediate counterbalance?
Yeah, just as I'm doing downward dog, I reach gently down towards this pound cake that's been set out on a plate. It's actually
the upward bite.
Yes, yeah. It's the best way to have pound cake. Having the milk afterwards is a little troublesome, but it's a practice, and it takes years to master.
So just straight dairy milk. That's
No. We do oat milk now.
Oh,
that's the thing we do now. Yeah. It's what's in. It's what's in. I guess it's vegan.
Yeah,
it's vegan. What do you have? Do you have oat milk or almond milk?
We do almond milk. Yeah, we do almond milk. We do some soy milk if we want to get crazy.
Oh yeah, that's what we're Saturday night. Yeah. So.
Yeah, but now that we're on the hipstery topics and Reed has not responded to my outreach, I think we should just start. And I'm going to pass the mic to you and let you dominate the screen.
All right. So I'll be reading, as I said, from Hipster Death Rattle, which is a book about a serial killer who wants to ungentrify the neighborhood by killing all the hipsters. So this is chapter 5 from the book. As Erin Cole and her husband Stephen Pack burst through the entrance of The Verge, a 35-story glass tower condominium complex on Kent Avenue, perfectly situated on the waterfront and boasting breathtaking river and city views, she was greeted by the smiling, moon-shaped face of Angel, their tries too hard doorman. "Mr. Stephen, Miss Erin, are you okay?" he said, in his little worn-out doorman uniform with dirty white gloves. Steve blurted, "Oh, God, but..." Erin cut him off. "We're fine," she said, "just tired. You sure?" "Absolutely. It's just so hot." She walked as quickly as she could. She was very pregnant and genetically thin, so now she looked like a straw with a pea stuck on it. "We're fine," she said. "Gracias," she said, using her best Spanish accent, which she knew was good because some of her best friends back home in Texas were indeed Mexican, and they said her accent was great. Angel probably thought they'd just had an argument. Whatever, let him think what he wanted. He was just a doorman. Come tomorrow morning, he'd forget he'd ever seen how scared they must have looked. That's what they were, right? Scared. Freaked out. As soon as the mirrored elevator doors closed, Erin backed herself against the wall. Steve looked ill, like he was about to hurl, and she hoped he wouldn't because that would make her hurl. Her hubby was about to talk, but she shushed him. "Be quiet, kumquat," she said. "I think these things are bugged. Quiet till we get upstairs." They had been walking home from dinner on South 6th Street, a new Burundian place that had been written up in New York Magazine. It wasn't a short walk, and the night was hot, but Erin had nixed the idea of a cab. Her body temperature was all over the place, so she couldn't stand the idea of being trapped inside a car with the air conditioner going on full blast, feeling like some momsicle. They had been talking about getting out of town for July 4th, before she popped, before their lives changed forever. And because New York became such a ghost town then, except for all the very, very slow, very, very fat tourists. And as she and Steve turned from South 4th onto Kent, they heard a sound. Maybe like the chopping of wood. No, more like the sound of a ceramic knife hitting a bamboo cutting board. They didn't look and kept walking. They weren't native New Yorkers, but they had learned there were too many weirdos, too many strange things that happened in the big city. You just couldn't worry about them all. In this town, you were on your own. But then she had looked down the street and over, and slumped halfway to the ground was a young guy, and covering his shirt was it? Yes, blood. Blood. Standing above him was a man with a long machete. That machete was the clearest thing she could see, and it shined with that blood. It was surreal, something out of a horror movie, so she and her McSteven just watched it like it was one, frozen in place, holding hands. And then they heard something between a moan and a wheeze from the man on the ground, a sound like her grandma Betsy made just as she passed. Steve Arini fumbled with his iPhone, aiming it. He was going to take a picture, but her survival instinct made her back away, pulling hubby and his phone with her. They looked at each other and turned to begin to walk, quick, firm steps. Erin held her pregnant belly, and Stevie reached out to hold it too. They turned back onto South 4th, kept going up to Bedford, where stinky hipsters crowded the streets like a thick, bearded herd of buffalo. Without talking, she and Stevie ran through the herd and up to North 5th. Then they turned back toward the Riverside Park and their building here. Blazing streetlights canceled the night. Here, preeminent luxury condominiums jutted into the sky, and adults and children and dogs could mill about safely away from the darkness. She and Steve Lee had never looked back at the scene on Kent, which was only a few blocks down. But she knew her husband was thinking the same thing she was thinking, although neither of them said it out loud. Did the man with the machete see them seeing him? Thank you. Fine book.
Thank you, Richie.
Thank you very much, Alex, for inviting me. This has been great. This is still going great. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
We're doing the best we can. Thank you, Richie.
Oh, yes. No, you're doing great, man.
All right. So I'm going to unmute Hilary because she's next. And thank you, Richie, I always enjoy reading your hot takes on hipster culture through the prism of the crime novel. Next up, we have Hilary Davidson, who just released a fantastic novel, the second in the series. And I am not going to presume what people are reading anymore because I've been wrong 2 times. But I'm excited to hear you read.
No, in this case, you would have guessed right, Alex.
All
and
right.
Actually, so I realized today, I don't know why I didn't think of this before. So my book came out in February, Don't Look Down. And Alex and I did an event in person at Q and Willow on February 28th. And it was amazing, and we had so much fun. And I was supposed to do book tour stuff after that, and all of it got canceled. So I know some of the people who I was supposed to see in California and Arizona and Virginia are on here tonight. So I am so excited to actually be able to sort of hang out with you guys, even if it is virtually speaking.
There are 150 people watching.
I was going to say, or 360 according to my screen, the count on the screen. I mean, Alex, I don't know where you found all these people. This is amazing. But I'm not going to set this up because I'm just going to read a little bit from chapter 1. So this is from Don't Look Down. This would be a great place to get murdered, Jo thought. It was a sardonic aside, just her dark sense of humor kicking in, but she shuddered anyway. The strangest thing was that, in spite of the noise, it felt like there was no one else in the building. She paused on the 3rd floor landing to steady her nerves. Over the blaring TV, there was the sound of metal scraping against metal. Jo dropped the heavy bag and spun around, but no one was there. She studied each door. Maybe someone was watching her through a peephole. If I lived in a place like this, I'd watch everyone who came in, she thought. Still, it was unnerving. No one knew she was there. If she died, no one would know what had happened to her. Finally, in front of apartment 402, she removed her gloves and balled them up in the left pocket of her jacket. She didn't know how this was going to go. She had to be ready. With her left hand gripping the bag and her right hand deep in her jacket pocket, she lightly kicked the door with the toe of her sneaker. Inside, someone opened up the peephole and stared at her for what felt like a very long time. Jo wanted to snap at him to hurry it up. She didn't have all day. She had a life to get back to. This was a brief detour from the path she was on, a wrong turn she'd made. Finally, she heard a single lock turn. The door opened a crack, then widened. "Hey there," said the man who answered it. He was tall and casually dressed in jeans and a white shirt. He wore a black ball cap that cast the top part of his face in shadow and made it hard to figure his age. "You must be Joe." "You never gave me your name," Jo said. She had wondered for the past weeks what her blackmailer looked like. Her greatest fear had been that it was someone from her past, nursing a grudge that ran valley deep. A close second was her fear that it might be one of her sister's seedy associates, bitter and vicious and desperate to sell her out for the next fix. Instead, she found herself staring at a man she'd never laid eyes on before. She didn't feel a relief exactly, but there was something reassuring that this torment was only about money. An old acquaintance might be hard to placate. A fresh face who only cared about cash presented a different set of problems, but they felt slightly less dire. "Guilty as charged," he answered. "Come on in." He sounded casual, perhaps aiming for friendliness, but his low voice came out as a snarl, as if his teeth were gritted behind the tight smile he gave her. Jo froze in place, every nerve in her body telling her not to step inside. "You're looking at me like I'm the big bad wolf. I don't bite," the man added with a contemptuous chuckle. "You useless crybaby," hissed the voice in the back of Jo's mind. "Get inside and get this over with." "I've been bitten by guys who gave me that same line," Jo answered, swallowing her fear and stepping over the threshold. The man moved to one side, holding the door for her. Jo's head swiveled as she took in her surroundings, her right hand tensing, but no one else was inside. The apartment was a small studio, well kept and decorated with pops of color. The building itself may have been desolate, but this small corner of it verged on cozy. A framed painting of the Holy Family caught her eye. She was familiar with religious imagery from her childhood, but this image was a departure from the blonde, blue-eyed version she knew. In this case, baby Jesus, Mary, and Joseph were black. The man closed the door with a sharp bang and double-locked it behind her. Jo tried not to flinch, but a chill ran down her neck and through her body. For the first time, she was genuinely afraid. The apartment was clean and smelled of bleach, but for all she knew, this man was a meticulous serial killer who didn't like a mess. "You want something to drink?" the man asked. "I've got scotch, but no ice." "No, I just want to talk," Jo said. She cleared her throat. It felt like sandpaper from all the dust she'd inhaled on the climb up the stairs. "I want to know about that video." "It's pretty shocking." He was relaxed as he spoke, like he was talking about a cartoon. "You've seen it before?" "I didn't even know it existed." That was a lie, but she didn't owe him any explanations. "How did you get it?" The man smiled wider. He was obviously enjoying himself. "I'll tell you what I wonder about," he said. "Do you ever feel guilty for what you've done?" Jo didn't answer that, but her stomach churned. "I want to know," he added, the wattage of his smile dimming. "Most people would feel bad, I bet." "How did you get that video?" Jo repeated. "It was part of a package deal," the man said. "It came with these." He handed a couple of glossy photographs to her. She glanced at the one on top, and bile crept into her throat. She had to look away. "You had one hot little bod, didn't you?" The man was openly leering at her now. "I've got to say, first time I saw those, I thought, wow. But then I also thought, where were that girl's parents?" "Dead," Jo said. "Huh, I guess that explains it." His deep voice rasped. "How old were you then?" Jo barely heard him. The sound of her own blood was beating in her ears. She'd had a vision of what she needed to do. March in, gather information, secure every copy of the video, and hand over the cash. Everything had gone sideways fast with the smarmy creep's hot eyes on her. She found herself gazing at the Holy Family again. There were so many colors swirling in it, but what stood out to her were little drops of red. At that moment, they looked like blood. The photos slipped out of her left hand. They fluttered to the floor as she clutched the duffel bag. Her right hand, deep in her pocket, gripped her gun. She slid the safety off with her thumb. "Don't take any of this personally," the man said. We've all got to do what we've got to do, right? Joe suddenly realized he was as sly an animal as she'd ever encountered. For while he'd kept chatting, his voice low and gravelly and calm, he'd made his way over to the kitchen counter. His eyes stayed on hers while his hand darted out and reached for something. It was the hallmark move of a predator, and she noted with searing regret that talking herself out of her fears had only left her vulnerable. She pulled the gun out of her pocket and fired at him, but not before he raised his gun and fired at her. Thank you. Thanks,
Fantastic.
everybody.
Thank you, Hilary. All right, now we're here. We can see Kelly in the on-deck circle, but I've muted her. Next up is Wallace, who tell us a little bit about what you're going to read.
I'm actually going to read from a book that won't be out until next year from Mulholland, and it's still untitled, so if anybody has any ideas, hit me up in the chat. Thanks
I
for
like that. Crowdsourcing title.
Yeah, thanks for doing this, Alex. It's a great, and for troubleshooting the tech issues. I hope everyone is staying safe and relatively sane through all this. So I'm just going to go ahead and read the opening chapter of this. Only I think about 2 people in the world have heard this or seen this at the moment. So I'm just going to go ahead and read from that. And the chapter begins with an epigraph from the Chinese poet Bei Dao, which reads, "Freedom is nothing but the distance between the hunted and the hunter." So just go ahead and I'll read the first chapter. And there's not much you need to know. It's told through the eyes of a woman named Joette Harper, who's a young widow at the Jersey Shore who manages a motel, and it's dead of winter. As everybody knows, this area knows, it can be pretty dead in the winter. And it's Joette's story, so I'll just go ahead and read it. Watching through the office window, Joette knows the BMW won't make the curve. Just past the motel, the highway hooks left across Taylor Creek. The car's going too fast. The squeal of brakes, a brief screaming skid, and it hits the bridge's right side abutment head on. Momentum spins the car around, pieces of it flying away across the blacktop. It comes to rest sideways in the road, pointing at the motel, steam rising from under the hood. Later, it'll occur to her that if she'd called 911 then, her cell phone right there on the desk, everything that happened afterward would have been different. Instead, she's out the door without thinking. The hood of the car is pushed back almost to the windshield. The windshield glass is cracked and sagging. The driver is slumped over the deflated airbag. The rear window's been blown out, and the trunk's open. Cubes of safety glass litter the ground. She pulls at the driver's door latch, but it's wedged tight, bent in its frame. The driver raises his head, looks at her weakly through the window, blankly, eyes unfocused. He's wearing an Army field jacket. He has a shaven head and a full beard. There's an 8-ball tattoo on the back of his neck, Gothic lettering across his throat. She hears the fire before she sees it. An ominous pop and hiss, and a crackle of flame in the engine compartment. Fuel line rupture, she thinks. Gasoline hitting hot metal. Black smoke starts to pour from the engine. More flame. It won't take long for the fire to spread back through the car, reach the gas tank. The driver is fumbling weakly with his shoulder harness. She pulls harder on the latch, and the door opens suddenly, sends her falling back onto the blacktop. Flames leap from the engine. Get away, she thinks. This whole thing's going up any second. The car begins to fill with smoke. The driver makes an animal sound, and she sees the first flames come through the dashboard vents. You can't leave him there, she thinks. She scrambles to her feet and leans into the open door. He grabs at her, and she elbows his hand away, untwists the shoulder harness, and pushes the red release button. The belt pops loose, retracts fast, and his weight falls against her. She hooks her arms under his, tries to pull him out, but she can't get the leverage. Panic is a siren in her head. We're both going to burn, she thinks. Flames curl from under the dashboard, snap at the sleeve of her flannel shirt. The material begins to char. She bats at it, feels the sting. Holding her breath against the smoke, She bear hugs him from behind, throws her weight backwards. He groans, seems to resist, then falls sideways out of his seat and onto the ground. She drags him away, his boot heels scuffing on the blacktop. She falls, gets up, falls again, gets up again, grips the back collar of his jacket with both hands. Smoke hides most of the car now, lashing flame at the center of it. The seats are on fire. She pulls him into the lot, almost up to the office door, then lets go. Something sails across her line of vision, glowing faintly. It flutters down and lands at her feet. When she picks it up, she sees it's a $100 bill. Half of Benjamin Franklin's face is burned away. The driver coughs, and the blood on his lips is almost black. He lifts a weak hand, points to the car, mumbles something she can't understand. Is there someone else in there, she thinks. She doesn't want to go back. She doesn't want to get any closer to the fire, the heat. But you have to see. She drops the bill, approaches the car, arm raised in front of her face, the heat keeping her back. Smoke pours to the rear window, but you can tell the back seat is empty. She sees it then, inside the open trunk, a gray canvas gear bag lying on its side, packs of banded cash spilling out. They're all hundreds, along with a few loose bills. The heat is a wall in front of her, shimmering the air. She knows the gas tank is just below the trunk. The fire will set it off any minute. She leans into the heat, sweeps the packs and the bills into the bag, grabs its handles, and backs away fast. The tank goes up just as she reaches the lot. No explosion, just a loud whoop, and heat coming at her like a wave. Fire sweeps through the car in a final rush, heat distorting the air, black smoke billowing higher into the blue sky. The tires pop like gunshots, one after the other. Boom, 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 boom. She stumbles back, trips, and sits down hard. The driver coughs again, more blood. His left hand is under his jacket, pressed against his stomach through his t-shirt. Blood pulses through his fingers. His jeans are dark with it, down to his knees. He didn't get that in the accident, she thinks. That's something else. He looks at her, shudders twice, and goes still. His eyes are open. The wind springs up from nowhere and feeds the fire. The air smells of burning plastic and rubber. She sits there, alongside the dead man and the bag full of money, watching the car burn, ash drifting down around them like black snow.
Awesome.
Thanks very much, folks, for tuning in.
Thank you. Thank you. So did you finalize a title, or are we still in flux?
No, I don't have a title yet. I've gone through a couple. I'm waiting for something to announce itself with authority to me, but no title yet.
I think Cool Kids Table was the popular vote.
I'll write that down.
All right. Thank you, Sarah. All right. Next up, we have Kelly Garrett, who's one of my best pals in this crazy crime world, and we get to see the amazing bookshelf that's behind Ivy.
Gorgeous.
Yes, it is. And Ivy is next. And so, Kelly, what are you going to read for us?
I'm just going to go for my debut, Hollywood Homicide. So.
All right, let me just make you the star instead of...
Please, finally.
I'm trying. Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh my God, I'm so big. Okay, I'm ready.
You are the star.
All right, so this is my debut, Hollywood Homicide. It's kind of like a very funny, lightweight mystery novel, so kind of different than what we've been hearing. So he stared at my resume like it was an SAT question. One of the hard ones where you just bubbled in C and kept it moving. After a minute, I counted, since there was nothing else to do. He finally looked up and smiled. So, Dana Anderson. He got my name right. The interview was off to a pretty good start. So what in your previous experience would make you a good fit for this position? He smiled again, this time readjusting his Joey, manager, asked me about our large jugs, name tag that was prominently placed on his uniform. Since I was sitting in the Twin Peaks coffee shop interviewing to be a bikini barista, said uniform happened to be a Speedo. I pegged him for 22 tops, and it wasn't just because he didn't have a centimeter of hair anywhere on his body. I made a mental note to get the name of his waxer. I make a mean cup of coffee, I said. Not to brag or anything, but it's been compared to liquid crack. I smiled and he frowned. He was actually serious. Maybe a drug joke wasn't the best opening line. I quickly attempted to rectify my mistake. This position just seems tailored to my competencies. I've always been a people person. He nodded and glanced back at my resume. It felt like it took him years to ask the next question. So why do you want to work at Twin Peaks? Because I needed money, I thought. And this was my first interview since the head Starbucks barista turned me down for being overqualified. Because it just feels like a great place to work, I said. I've known Richie since I moved to LA 5 years ago from Georgia. The Richie thing was the first true thing to come out of my mouth. He'd opened the first Twin Peaks down the street from my first apartment. The coffee was good enough that I could overlook the whole, the person serving me basically has no clothes on, which cannot be sanitary thing. I'd come in every morning after the AM rush, and every morning Richie would offer me a job. At first, I dismissed it as harmless flirting, but Richie was serious. He'd extol the virtues of working for him. Dental, vision, even tuition reimbursement, because like strippers, the majority of bikini baristas were apparently just doing it to pay for college. I'd always turn him down. I didn't care how great the 401k match may be. There was no way I'd ever reduce myself to being half naked for a paycheck. Of course, after months of not receiving a paycheck, totaling more than a couple $100 from jobs that required me to be fully clothed, I'd suddenly seen the light. Swallowing my pride, I texted Richie out the blue to ask if the offer still stood. It did. He was opening a new downtown location and would be happy to set up an interview with the manager. And even though I was happy for the opportunity, I still had to give myself a 10-minute pep talk to walk in the door. Words like self-worth and college degree flew around in my head, but I banished them for the only two words that now mattered, steady and income. Joey smiled again, and this time it was actually genuine. Maybe this could actually work. How much do you weigh? He said. Or maybe not. Enough, I said. He gave me a once-over and apparently was not too impressed. Our biggest uniform is a size 6. I'm a 6, I said, if it was really, 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 really stretchy. I kind of maybe sort of put on a few pounds since Richie had last seen me, blossoming from a size 4 to a 10. Not considered big in any state known to vote Republican, but in LA, I might as well have been fused to a couch and needing a forklift to help me get up. I'd be happy to try on the uniform, I said. Joey didn't say anything, just looked at me, and then something changed. I knew that look. It was coming. The question I dreaded most, even more than a tell me about yourselves. He was going to ask if I'd gone to high school with him. People always knew I looked familiar, but just couldn't figure out why. So they assumed they knew me from home. I'd been from Seattle, Omaha, and in one case, Wasilla, Alaska. I've always said there's at least one Black person everywhere. People all seem to think that lone integrationist is me. You look like someone I went to school with, he finally said. There it was. Oh, I said, she must be beautiful. I smiled just so he'd know I was joking. He said nothing, just stared some more. I waited. It took a few seconds, but it finally hit him. Don't think so, boo. You're the don't think so, boo girl from the commercials. Was, I clarified. I was the girl from the commercials. I'd been considered famous once upon a time, but unlike Cinderella and Snow White, my fairy tale did not have a happy ending. Instead, it came crashing down a year and a half ago, and I had joined the rest of the mere mortals. Having had fleeting fame, I was not recognizable as much as familiar, and that familiarity was courtesy of the Chubby's chicken train. For almost 2 years, I would somehow end every situation and commercial with the catchphrase, don't think so, boo. And if the scene calls for me to be really upset, I do a quick finger jab, a long neck roll, and a sophisticated sucking of my teeth. Rosa Parks would be so proud. 18 months ago, Chubby's had abruptly ended my contract with the all-too-standard, we're going in a new direction spiel to my now former agent. Silly me had been under the impression that Chubby's would be just the beginning, not the end. I just knew there was more in my future than just chicken wings. I was wrong, and now officially, unofficially retired from acting. You gotta say it, just once. Joey looked at me all goofy-like, a complete 180 from the wannabe grown-up from a few minutes before. I shook my head. I hated that phrase even more than I hated my life at that moment. That was a lifetime ago, I said. I don't act anymore. Oh, come on. He was practically begging. We love those commercials. Don't think so, boo? Just say it one time. I was tempted to tell him I'd say it every time I brewed a freaking triple espresso if he would just give me the dang job already. Wait, he said, like I was going to actually do it. Bobby needs to be here. He turned in the direction of the counter and screamed at the top of his lungs, Bobby, get out here. Before I knew it, a tall redhead was in front of me, his uniform staring me smack dab in the face. It was obvious he didn't have a clue who I was, which was fine by me. Dude, Joey said. Dude, Bobby responded. Dude. I could tell by the inflection that each dude had a different meaning, but it was a language I didn't know or care to learn. Dude, it's... Don't tell me, Bobby said. I want to guess. I sat there while Bobby and Joey both stared and stared and stared, like I was some type of exotic tiger. At least they fed the animals at the zoo. All the Chubby's chicken talk was just reminding me I'd skip breakfast. I needed out of there. Unfortunately, I could only think of one way to make my escape. Don't think so, boo. I even added a neck roll. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. That was fantastic. Before you go, I want to hear a little bit about what you're working on next.
Oh my gosh. So does my agent. Hi, Michelle. I am working on a standalone that's a bit more serious. And if you guys know Lyric McHenry, it's kind of based on that. She was this woman who was partying in downtown New York, and somehow they found her body overdosing in the Bronx. And so my story is kind of based on that and the idea of how this person got from downtown New York to the Bronx, what happened. So
awesome. Very exciting. Thanks, Kelly. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you for having me, Alex. It was great.
Sure. Yay. And next up, we have Ivy Pakoda. Thanks for coming. All the way from... thanks for swinging by. Yeah. I feel like I have to transition from telling everyone to read Wonder Valley to tell them to read These Women, which was magnificent. And you can pre-order it here if you click on that giant green button below Ivy. Are you going to read from it?
I am, and the first and only other time I've read from this was at Noir at the bar at Q and Willow 2 summers ago.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah, I read like a totally new unedited section, and that section is also in the book, but I'm not going to read that again. It's a pretty hard book to read from because there's like a lot of bad shit. Anyway, I'm going to read from the beginning of one section right up top, and thank you. Oh, first of all, big shout out to my dad, who I know is here. Oh, it says someone can't hear me. Is that possible?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay, cool. And thanks, Alex, and thanks, Megan, for the love earlier. And hi to my dad. I think my mom is there, so this is as close as we can get. Okay. The girls arrive after dismissal. How old are they? 15, 16, 17? Dorian's lost the ability to tell. They flood the small fish shack, spinning on the stools bolted to the floor, splaying their bodies over the counter. They've rolled the skirts of their uniforms high, revealing thigh, even a little cheek, a flash of underwear trimmed with lace. They've unbuttoned their blouses, yanked down their polos, showing bra and breast. I could get, gimme, let me get a. Their voices pile on top of one another as they wait for their food. They're loud, performing, making a big deal of their adolescent selves. Dorian checks the temperature of the oil, making sure it's hot enough that the food crisps instead of sweats. The girls are growing impatient because the world isn't moving at their speed. Soon they're trying to outdo one another with their takedowns, their bold profanities. Bitch, whore, slut. Dorian slides them iced tea, soda, and double orders of fries. The girls' voices rise, twisting and tangling. Let me tell you what this bitch got up to last weekend. Don't you dare. This bitch? Who are you calling bitch, bitch? Like I said, this bitch went over to Ramon's place. Don't you say another word. Come on, you're proud of it. Don't tell me you're not. Or else how come first thing you did when you got home was text me and Maria all the details? Dorian shakes the grease from another batch of fries. My order ready yet? How come this shit is too slow? She dumps the fries into a styrofoam container. Bitch went down on him. Dorian drops the fryer basket, missing the grooves. Oil splatters onto her forearms. The girls are laughing, pinching each other, congratulating themselves on leaving childhood behind, leaving safety and sanity. Dorian turns, exiting the kitchen, and approaches the counter with the food. All you do is open your mouth and close your eyes, no big deal, like nothing at all. Dorian drops the fries. She reaches across the counter, her hand grasping the speaker's forearm. Leisha. The girls fall silent, their invincibility interrupted. Get your hand off me. Dorian holds firm. Leisha, she says, her voice brittle with panic. I said, get your hand off me. Leisha, Dorian says, shaking the girl's wrist to stop her talking the way she's talking. Who the fuck is Leisha? She feels a hand on her own arm, the present reaching into the past. Dorian. Willie, her helper at the fish shack, is at her side, his voice soft but firm. Dorian. Dorian's holding fast, shaking her kid back to reality. Tell this bitch to get her hand off me. Bitch. Leisha would never call her mother a bitch. Dorian lets go. Willie pulls her back into the kitchen. Easy, he says. Easy, easy. As if she's a dog that got too riled. The girls scatter, leaving their half-eaten food. The gate to the fish shack bangs behind them. Dorian can hear their voices mocking her as they hit the streets. 15 years later, nothing is going to change the fact that Leisha's still dead. Yet somehow the past keeps calling. Dorian puts her hands to her temples to settle her mind, sort imagination from reality. Still, everything remains tangled. The evening rush is over. Dorian drops some scraps into the fryer and turns up the volume on the radio. It's tuned to the classical station that plays the obvious hits of Mozart and Beethoven, and because this is Los Angeles, John Williams and Hans Zimmer. The fryer spits. Dorian shakes the basket. After nearly 3 decades of running the fish shack on Western and 31st, Dorian should be sick of the fried stuff. But if you can't stomach your own grub, you can't serve it. She shakes on a little extra salt and reaches for the hot sauce. Long ago, her customers stopped caring, noticing, or remembering that it's a white woman running the fried fish place on the southern edge of Jefferson Park. If they knew she'd never had collard greens or catfish before she met Ricky on the other coast and allowed him to bring her cross-country, they'd put it out of their mind. If she told them she'd never cooked cornbread or fried oat bread in her life before Ricky died, they'd chosen to forget. Hold up. Someone's banging on the grate covering her kitchen window. I said, hold up. How many times I told you I don't like hot sauce on my fish? It's Kathy. Dorian knows the voice. A gravel sing-song that she hears up and down Western. Didn't want you anyway. Probably too small to find in the dark. You buy and are wasting my time. Dorian opens the back door to the fish shack. Kathy's standing in the alley. She's short, compact, like she did away with anything she didn't need. She's wearing a denim miniskirt, a fake fur bomber jacket, ankle boots with pencil-thin heels. She's pale and her bleached, frizzy bob only washes her out more. My great-grandmother was raped by a plantation dude, she told Dorian once, and all I got was this yellow complexion. Then came the manic cackle Dorian can recognize from half a block away. Dorian didn't bother with the math to see if Kathy's story was even possible. The things she's heard from Kathy's mouth, the things she's heard from the rest of the women who work Western. Half assault, half work is how I tell it. No worse than choking on a sausage. God, I can't believe 3 couldn't keep an umbrella up in a light wind. 30 seconds wet and sloppy, but done is done. Smells like the reptile house at the zoo, and I know you know what I mean. There are more. More about the life, more about the men, more about the discomfort, the drugs, the antibiotics, the nightly bump and grind. After 13 years of feeding the women on the stroll, there's not much they can say that would shock Dorian. They try, though, make a game out of it. Dorian could run a late-night sex call-in show with the information she's gleaned. She could give you a twisted anatomy lesson. She wedges the door open with her foot. Are you coming in? Hold up, Kathy squats down, getting close to the sludge, running off from the dumpster. She reaches out for something. When she stands up, Dorian can see tears in her eyes. She's holding a dead hummingbird. It's a Costa's. Its purple crown slicked by the runoff from the dumpster. Dorian cups her palms and Kathy drops the bird into them. It feels impossibly light, as if minus its soul, it's hardly there. Fuck is it with the world, Kathy says. Beauty's nothing but a curse. That's what I tell my kids. She wipes her eyes. Dorian should have told her daughter Leisha the same thing, but Leisha learned that lesson before her 18th birthday. And there it is, the black flash of rage, a punch to the gut, a hand closing over her throat. You gonna feed me or not, Kathy says. Dorian holds the door open and stands aside. The kitchen barely fits 2 people. Dorian presses herself against the counter and Kathy slides past, taking the container of fish trim to the far end by the window. She eats with her hands, dipping the fish in tartar sauce and raising it to her lips, then licking the sauce from her fingers. Dorian gets a Pullman pan from the overhead rack. She places the dead bird inside it, then checks the temperature of the oven. It's 200, give or take. She slides the loaf pan and turns up the heat a little bit, like she's drying jerky. That's fucked up, Kathy says. It's how I save them. Save, Kathy said. That's a good one. How many you got now? On top of the refrigerator are 2 shoeboxes of dead birds, perfectly preserved and nestled in cotton wool. 28, Dorian says. Shit, Kathy says. I wouldn't want to be a bird around here. Thank you.
That was amazing. Thank you.
I'm so in for it, having to read from this book now.
No, I saw your expression change as you got to the scene. You're like, oh, I'm in it. That's funny.
Yeah.
That was great. Do you want to talk a little bit more about the book now that you know?
Yeah, sure. It's a book that's very loosely based on a serial killer who operated in South LA called the Grim Sweeper, who killed predominantly Black and Latino women, and no one gave a shit because of his victims were sort of considered disposable by LAPD back in the day, and it was also during the crack time. And then he was dormant for a while and came back. What I decided was that he wasn't particularly interesting, but the women around him were. Mm-hmm. So I decided to take him completely out of the picture and write this book from the perspective of women who've been affected by a crime, not necessarily just the victims, but people who are close to him, parents of the victims, a female detective. So it's a serial killer novel with a big serial killer shaped hole in it, and it doesn't really have any men in it. So it's like, I guess, a feminist serial killer novel. So
it's great. It's great. And you can pre-order it. And thank you.
Yeah, with an amazing cover. And yes. I'm so psyched. And yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. And next up we have Reed, who I've been having an ongoing tech support discussion with. I can hear you now, though. Yes.
Hey, Alex, can you hear me?
But before you start, I just want to remind everyone that you can support Q and Willow by picking up some books. Just click on that green button under Reed's name. Thank you to the bookstore, which is a real important and amazing part of our community, and we really need to support them as much as we can, especially during these crazy, challenging times. And I kind of sped through that last break, so we're going to finish up with Reed and then close out with Jen. So, Reed, talk to us a little bit about what you're going to read for us.
I'm going to read from the missing Gus Murphy #3 book called All Buried Things. And to do a little bit of the setup for you, this book, for which I don't have a contract, and so I just want people to hear some of it if it never comes out. Gus is working at the Paragon Hotel as a van driver. He goes to MacArthur Airport and picks up a group of 5 or 6 people, and they're called the All Buried Things Irregulars, which he completely is confused by. And it turns out there are a bunch of people who listen to podcasts about true crime. And they're here because they've won a contest and are going to visit the sites that were discussed on the last season of All Buried Things. And it happens to be a case he had worked on. So here it is. It's chapter 4 of All Buried Things. The lobby of the Paragon had probably once been fashionable and reasonably pretty. but now it was more a threadbare memorial to bad taste. The hotel had been bought and sold several times, each subsequent owner doing some tinkering around the edges by adding either a layer of ill-matching marble or bad art to the false grandeur of the place. The owners, who took possession of it just prior to the financial collapse of '08, had envisioned the Paragon as a destination hotel and had plans for a day spa and tennis courts. Early bankruptcy was the kindest thing that had ever happened to them. Bohemia, Long Island, New York would never be a destination for anything but cheap flights, and even that was in question. At least the current owners of the Paragon, the Bonnecker family, saw it for what it was and would always be, a frayed and cozy dump. The rooms were clean and cheap, and it wasn't good enough. And if that wasn't good enough for you, that was just too fucking bad. They made very few concessions to pretense, and our business center was a perfect example of that. 2 computers on a plastic top folding table, blocked off like an office cubicle by movable dividers covered in mauve fabric that was coarse to the touch. I sat down at the newer computer and tapped away. I Googled All Buried Things podcast, and I got a link to Julia Kent's Wikipedia page, plus links to 2 seasons worth of podcasts. I clicked on the link to the prologue for last season's episodes. A male announcer with a resonant voice speaks. Welcome to the new season of All Buried Things with Julia Kent. All Buried Things is sponsored by Hypersonic Solutions, the 22nd century app for 21st century people. If you want anything from food to finance delivered to your door and done faster and more efficiently, download Hypersonic, and travel into the future. But now, for a trip into the dark past, your host, Julia Kent. A synthesizer plays a danceable electro backbeat, thumping. A girl in a somewhat high-pitched voice sings. The song fades, but does not fade out completely. A woman speaks. Welcome to the prologue of this season of All Buried Things. My name is Julia Kent, your investigator and host. I got my degree in journalism at the University of Missouri, and I began my career as a reporter for the Sacramento Bee, eventually moving on to the Washington Post. But I found that covering stories, crime stories in particular, the way we were taught and advised to cover them, no longer satisfied me. I found that I could not easily move on from one tragedy to the next, and that there were deeper, more important aspects of stories to tell. Violent crimes are always about more than statistics. Violent crime reverberates. It reaches into the future. It isn't clean and precise like a surgeon's scalpel. It's more like a tornado, leaving damage and heartbreak, unanswered and unanswerable questions in its wake. At All Buried Things, we dig deep into singular crimes and listen to their echoes and feel their shockwaves. This is one such story. The song you've been listening to, Barbie Girl, by the Danish band Aqua, was everywhere in the spring and summer of 1997. Young girls all over the world had adopted it as a kind of anthem. It was no different for a group of 13 and 14-year-old girlfriends in the village of Yaphank on New York's Long Island. Listen to Callie Schwimmer talk about that summer and about her friends. The song fades out. A different woman speaks. We loved that song. We would play it over and over that summer. Amber especially loved it. The rest of us girls understood because, let's face it, Amber was a Barbie girl. She was so gorgeous, and her mom really spared no expense on Amber's hair, makeup, and clothes. The rest of us, we were only starting to, develop. Nervous laughter. But Amber could have passed for 20. We were having such a great summer that summer, partly because we were all getting a lot of attention from boys, older boys. Not the doofuses our age with their weird voices and baby fat. We knew they were all hot for Amber, but we didn't care. She was kind of like the flame that all the moths fluttered around. And, you know, boys, when they couldn't get Amber's attention, there was always the rest of us. I know that me and Valerie, more nervous laughter. I don't know if I should say this. Oh, fuck it. I don't care. I know we lost our virginity that summer. Christ, I hope my mom won't hear this. Anyway, it was great until, you know, until that Saturday night. Julia Kent speaks again. The night Callie Schwimmer is referring to is Saturday, August 30th, 1997. The night Amber left a friend's Labor Day weekend party from which she never returned. But it would be incorrect to say that Amber was never heard from or seen again, or that she simply left the party that night. Listen again to Callie Schwimmer. Callie Schwimmer speaks. I was with my boyfriend, at least the guy I thought was my boyfriend. Nervous laughter. What did I know? I was 14 years old and I thought, Joey. He was a junior in high school, for Christ's sakes. I was nervous and he told me he loved me. He loved getting into my pants is what he loved. More nervous laughter. I guess I was kind of loving that also. Anyway, Amber came up to us and she says she's leaving and begs me to come with her. I could see she's crying. She'd been crying. I asked what was wrong. She said it was nothing, but that could I please just leave with her. I was going to go, but Joey whispered in my ear that his big brother had rented a motel room for us. You got to understand what that meant to me, voice cracking. Up till then, we had been doing it in friends' basements and closets even, but we never had any privacy or anything. So to have a room to ourselves, it was special. You got to understand. Hesitation, sobbing. Don't you think I've asked myself a million times what would have happened if I left with her? Sometimes I go months without being haunted by it. But then I'll see a Barbie doll or a really beautiful blonde girl or hear the song and I'm right back there at the party. Joey's arms around me. My mom says I did the right thing because I could have ended up like Amber. But I don't know. I'm never going to know, am I? Julia Kent speaks again. During our 15-episode exploration of this case, we'll look at the short life of Amber Mary Went. We'll dig into the reasons she was so desperate to leave the party that night. We'll talk with the people who were in attendance at the party. You'll hear from people who knew Amber, relatives, friends, teachers, classmates, lovers, and rivals. But we'll also delve into aspects of the case that the public was never made aware of, aspects of the case even her own family wasn't privy to. Earlier, if you recall, I stated that it would be inaccurate to say Amber had never been heard from or seen again. She was both heard from and seen again on videotapes sent to the Suffolk County Police Department in the weeks following her disappearance. That's the rumor, and I have sources who swear they exist. We'll explore what is alleged to be on those tapes, how they might finally lead to a break in the case, and why the existence and content of those tapes has never been a matter of public record. The Barbie Girl song comes up again in the background. So come along with me for the next 15 weeks and listen to the echoes and feel the shockwaves of the Barbie Girl murder. Until next week, remember, all buried things someday rise again. This is Julia Kent. Thank you.
Thank you, Reed. And thank you for putting Barbie Girl in our head for the rest of isolation. What else are you working on?
Thank you, Alex, for doing this. And please, everybody, buy some books.
What else are you working on, Reed, that you can talk about?
Well, I just finished my first book in a new series for Blackstone Publishing. It's tentatively called Sleepless City, and it features a new character, a new protagonist, a New York City detective who has a unique brief. I imagine now with what's going on now, it'll be out sometime in early 2021.
Awesome. We're looking forward to that. All right.
Thanks, everybody. Good to see you all.
And we are nearing the end of this virtual Noir at the Bar, so if you have not picked up a book, please do so. And My habit is always, when Jen is on the roster of readers, to have her close up, because she's always got she's just a fantastic reader, and it's always a treat when she's reading at a Noir at the bar. So even though we're doing it virtually, she's going to virtually close out the event. Jen, what are you going to read from?
Well, I just finished a novel called My Boyfriend is Missing, and I just started querying agents. I got to maybe 3, and, the coronavirus hit, and I just felt it was bad manners to start querying agents, so I kind of stopped. I'm going to hold off for a couple months. But anyway, I've been working on this novel for a couple of years, and
awesome.
It's about a 28-year-old bartender who has gone through a lot of shitty men, and she finally meets this great guy, Nate, but he goes missing. So that's what I'm reading from.
All right.
I'm like my students. I think I have ADHD or something. I can't sit still. So this is my guest room, and I hid all my stash, my paper towels and toilet paper in the corner, so you can't see it. So. Anyway, so I'm going to start off. This is like the next day after Kayla, my main character, comes home from her bartending shift at 3 o'clock in the morning and finds that her boyfriend isn't there. He was out with a friend, but I guess he never came home. And this takes place at the Jersey Shore. And there's a couple of things you need to know. She's going to think about another ex-boyfriend. And at the Jersey Shore, you can rent a summer home in the winter and live there for like 8-9 months. And she does this in the winter. Anyway, let me just read it. Okay. I really want a cigarette, but I've been smoke-free for 3 weeks. My foot is tapping. My stomach is twisted up. I'm trying to swat away the real thought that's stalking me. Nate's with someone else. I have to believe he's not cheating, that he didn't hook up with some random woman he and Brian met at a bar last night. I keep telling myself that Nate isn't the type, but my experience with men and my 7 years of bartending have taught me that even the nicest guys will screw around, especially if they're drunk. I get up and walk around the house trying to calm myself down from this thought, but all I can think of is how much guys suck. Before I got involved with my psychotic ex-boyfriend Justin Lott, I was involved with tattoo artist Corey Marino, the lion cheater. It wasn't a super long relationship, only about a year, but I really liked him. He was very hot in a cool way, tall but thin, brownish blonde hair, lots of tattoos, and a nose that had been broken in a fight once. From first glance, he appeared to be someone who was up to no good or had a chip on their shoulder, but that really wasn't the case. Corey was upbeat, fun, and a bit of a health nut, kind of smart, but always short of money, which is why I invited him to live with Ethan, my younger brother, and me at my aunt's beach house for 6 months. It was stupid. I see that now. I'd confronted him about my suspicions that he was two-timing me a few weeks before I found out the truth, but he told me it was all in my head. He suggested I do some yoga to chill out. Your anxiety is making you crazy, baby. It's not healthy. So I pulled up some yoga YouTube video and gave it a shot, and it did calm me down. But my suspicions never went away. I knew he was screwing around with me, but I just couldn't prove it. So I set him up. One day on a day, I knew Corey would be off from the tattoo shop. I pretended I was going in for an 11 to 7 shift at my bar, dressed in my usual tight jeans, tight black tank top, black bar sneakers, and pulled my hair back and kissed him goodbye. I took off in my car, drove over the bridge to Barnes & Noble, pulled on my sweat jacket, got some tea, and tried to read from that Gone Girl book, but I couldn't keep my mind on it. I'm not much of a reader anyway. Then I went over to DSW and wandered around looking for shoes, but I couldn't get into shopping either. I called my friend Megan, told her about my plan, and she was like, good for you, nail his cheating ass. But she had to go because at that time she worked for some company up in Homedale and couldn't stay on the phone for long. I was on my own. My plan was to wait until 1 o'clock in the afternoon before I went back to the beach house. My younger brother Ethan got off the bus about 3, so I figured the girl I suspected Corey was screwing, this chick Vanessa, would be there between 12:30 and 2:30. She was a living girlfriend of Corey's boss, Derek, and Derek always opened up the tattoo shop at noon, leaving my boyfriend and Derek's girlfriend free to have their way with each other at my fucking beach house. I'd done my time schedule research so I could make this sting a slam dunk. How did I suspect something was going on to begin with? Vanessa often stopped into the tattoo shops for 2 reasons, either to see her boyfriend or to see mine. When she and Corey were around each other, I could feel the hot current of potential sex igniting in the air. Vanessa lit up when Corey spoke to her, giggling when he made a joke or melting when he asked her about her life. She was off the charts beautiful, with the naturally endowed figure of a comic book sex pot space alien, but she never acted like it. Sure, she walked around in tight clothes, her 3-inch brown suede boots, batting her false eyelashes, always with her hands full of coffee and cigarettes for Derek, or a healthy green smoothie with a shot of some liquid vitamin for Corey. But mostly, she seemed very insecure, nervous but nice, which threw me off the sex tension scent for a bit. She wasn't a bad person. So there I was, 1 p.m, my hands shaking and my stomach tightened up as I sped back over the bridge, the April sun shining, glittering against the bay water to the beach. I turned right and sped down Route 35, passing empty summer homes and closed ice cream parlors and mini golf courses, the sun shining bright, everything still. When I whipped the wheel around onto my aunt's street lined with vacant summer houses, some 2-story or 3-story, and some small, like my aunt's cedar shake house on stilts, my focus was intense and clear. I flew down the road and arrived in 10 seconds, slamming on the brakes, immediately noticing Vanessa's fucking white Jetta with a crack in the windshield in the driveway, in my parking spot. That just inflamed my fury. I stormed up the wooden steps, ready to kick some ass, but had trouble with my door key, and I could hear her yelling inside, "Someone's here!" I finally got in, marched right back to my bedroom, and found Vanessa in my bed. Well, she was near the edge of the bed, frantically pulling her ripped jeans up over her sexy wide hips, her big boobs flopping all over the place, apologizing profusely. Corey was in the bathroom peeing. "I thought you were working," he said when he came out, his tattoos on full display, a purple towel, my towel, slung low around his waist, as if he knew how hot he was, and this particular scene was about to turn into a threesome. "Kayla," Vanessa said after she got her bra and shirt on, "please don't tell Derek, please." Her eyes were wet. "It'll kill him." I wanted to kick her ass right there, and I could do it. Although she was tall and beautiful, she possessed no balls or self-esteem, and she'd probably just cry after the first shove like a hurt puppy and make me feel bad. Still, it wasn't all her fault. Corey was the classic player, someone you should never give your heart to or let move in, no matter how good or bad your reasons are. Corey was good for sex. He was fun, easygoing, he had that cute sideways smile that made your insides turn over, and he was real smooth. He liked to please women, and he was super good at it, most likely because in a former life he was a cowboy or a rock star. But he wasn't a guy you marry or have babies with. He was just a short-term solution. I see that now. Corey was good for me because he really taught me how to have sex, how to enjoy it, how to let loose. But he was no good as a human being. Future females who encounter his cheating ass or encounter someone like him should remember this mantra: use him and then lose him. Anyway, I let Vanessa walk out of my aunt's beach house without inflicting any physical harm. But after the door closed and I heard her 3-inch heeled suede boots clattering down the outside steps, I charged at Corey like a banshee, knocked him against the wall, and brutally kneed him between the legs like a psycho bitch pumped up on 5 Red Bulls. "What the fuck?" he howled, bending over in pain, my purple towel falling away, his hand covering his wounded dick. "Fucking A," he moaned, collapsing onto the floor in a fetal position, exposing his white butt. I hauled off and kicked his ass like it was a double-wide soccer ball. Jesus fuck! I was going to kick him in the head, but my foot hurt. Instead, I shouted, "Get your shit and get out, you stupid asshole!" Corey groaned some more, rolled over, pulled the towel over his private area, and peered up at me like a child. "I fucked up, Kayla," he said quietly. "I'm human." I reached down and yanked my purple towel away from him. "Get your lying human motherfucking ass out of my house before I fucking kill you." It took 2 hours before he got all his stuff out, and he did. We haven't had contact since. He deleted and blocked me from all social media, but I heard he's down in Southern Ocean County working at a tattoo place and living with some woman. Who cares? And I never told Derek, Corey's boss, that I found his girlfriend and my boyfriend together either. Derek always seemed a bit unstable, and my theory was, and still is, that if he found out Vanessa was cheating, it wouldn't really kill him like Vanessa claimed. But he might kill her, and I didn't hate her enough to put her in that danger. Or truthfully, I didn't want that on my conscience if Derek did kill her. The entire thing made me feel stupid and trashy, and I don't like feeling stupid and trashy. Nate never makes me feel stupid and feel this way. Until now, because Nate might be with someone like Vanessa. An awful dread wells up inside my chest. I go into my bedroom and lay down. My stomach is bothering me again. He didn't hook up with some random woman. He just got drunk. He's at Brian's and will be home later. That's what I tell myself. I crawl under the white comforter, berating myself for being psychotic. Just go back to sleep. He'll come home in the afternoon. It's what guys do.
Thank you, Jen. That was amazing.
Hey.
That was great. Thanks for closing things out. But like any good record or performance, we have a bonus track. Lindsay Faye had to deal with some ant issues. If I'm reading the chat correctly, is that what happened, Lindsay?
Yeah, I thought the ants were gone, and they were not. They were not gone. They were still here. And then I was like, okay, so I'm just going to kill all of you. When ants arrive en force.
They do travel in packs, in very big packs.
They do, and I thought that I had this, like ant killer, whole plan, and I was already losing my shit over it, and apparently it didn't quite work, but it works now.
You made it. What are you going to read from?
I would like to read from Jane Steele.
Yay.
Okay.
Yes, for sure.
Okay.
You are closing out the event, so just before you start to read, I want to remind people that the video of this will be archived on the site, and I'll share it around, and you should get an email with a link if you want to relive all these great readings. Thanks to the authors. Thanks to Q and Willow for virtually hosting, and please buy some books. Indie bookstores are so important to what we all do and to the reading experience. It's an amazing part of our community, and I'm just happy that they're around, and I'm happy that we can do this during these crazy times. So click that green button, and now, Lindsay, you can take over.
May I add as well, Alex, that if you're going to push a button and order something, it's just as easy to push a button and order something from an indie bookstore than it is to, tell Amazon that you want paper towels. So.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly. So I would love it if people, and actually I have a scheme coming up because I almost always have schemes. But I think that I'm going to be announcing soon just like a fundraiser in which, and I don't necessarily think that other authors need to take part in it if they don't feel like it. But I'm just stuck in here, and I have a lot of things. So I'm about to be telling people that if they just sort of watch my feed, etc., but if they pay something towards the American Red Cross or some other charity of choosing, then I'm going to be sending out like signed first pass pages and all sorts of neat gifts because awesome. I can still mail things, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to be doing that soon. I'm going to be reading the beginning of chapter 1 of Jane Steele. Of all my many readers, excuse me, I had readers on my mind. Of all my many murders, committed for love and for better reasons, the first was the most important. Already, this project proves more difficult than I had ever imagined. Autobiographies depend upon truth, but I have been lying for such a long, lonesome time. Jane, will you be my friend again? Edward Barbary had asked. My husband's lips were gnawed red, his lips gleaming with exertion and desire. When his When his fleshy mouth next moved, the merest croak emerged. He breathed precisely 5 more times, the fat folds of his belly shuddering against his torn musket, and then he stilled like a clock-weighted toy. More of my homicides anon. The among you will still desire to know why a dyed-in-the-wool villainess takes up pen and foolscap in the first place. I have been reading over and over again the most riveting book titled Jane Eyre, and the work inspires me to imitate its acts. My new printing features a daring introduction by the author railing against the first edition's critics. I feel to relate to this story, but I also relate to it as I would a friend or a lover, and at times I should prefer to throw it across the room and breathe its entire alphabet into my lungs. Whoever heard of disembodied voices calling to governesses of all people, as this Jane do? Hereby do I avow that I, Jane Steele, in all my days working as a governess, never once heard ethereal cries carried to me upon the brawny shoulders of the north wind, and had I done, I should have kept silent, for fear of being labeled eccentric. Altering the work for its wild fancy seems petty, however, for there are marvelous moments within. I might myself once have written, why was I always suffering, always browbeaten, always accused, forever condemned? Why could I never please? Why was it useless to try to win anyone's favor? I left such reflections behind me in childhood. At the small bottom of the ravine where my first cousin drew his final gurgling breaths. Yet I found myself pitying the strange, kindly Jane, in whose novel, whose biography is so weirdly similar. She, too, was as welcome in her aunt's household as our church mice in a communion martyr, and was sent to hell in the guise of a girls' school. That Jane was unfairly accused of wickedness, however. Well, I can no better answer my detractors than to thank them for their pains of restating the obvious. It was the girls' school that taught me to act as a wolf in girls' clothing should, skulking, a greater shadow amidst a gray landscape. It was London which formed me into a pale, wide-eyed creature with an errant laugh, a lust for life, and for dirty vocabulary, and a knife in her pocket. It was Charles who changed everything when I fell in love with him under the burdens of his false identity and a blighted conscience. The beginning of a memoir could be made in any of those places, but without my dear cousin, William Barbary, none of the rest would have happened at all. So I commence my account with the unembellished truth. Reader, I murdered him.
Yay! Thank you, Lindsay. All right, well, that's it. That's the epic conclusion to the first ever virtual Noir at the Bar Queens. I want to thank all the readers. I want to thank Hugh and Willow for giving us the framework and letting us order books and support a great indie bookstore in Queens. And I want to thank Crowdcast for making the tech stuff relatively seamless, and hopefully the glitches were not too glitchy, and the little technical speed bumps weren't too bad. I hope everyone is staying safe and healthy. There will be video of this that I'll send around hopefully at some point, and you should be able to access it while this page is up, and we'll do it again. We'll do it again, hopefully in a couple weeks or a month's time, everything permitting, and just stay safe, stay healthy, and keep reading and keep ordering books from indie bookstores because they need our help and our support. Thanks, and thanks again to everybody.